Joining us now in the studio is Steve Case, Vice President of Marketing for QuantumLink, and with us also Stephen Fickus, a West Coast account executive with CompuServe. George?
When you think of H&R Block, usually you think about going in and getting your taxes filled out. What is it? Why is it that H&R Block invested in CompuServe, and what are they going to bring to it?
Well, there's actually three different areas that H&R Block will benefit from having CompuServe under its portfolio, let's say. And those are in the online access to information. That's one area. That's growing really quickly. The other area is network services, nationwide network services, linking people's personal computers into these host computers that major corporations have. And finally, the actual building of a company's information service that people remotely can get into. All those three areas are growing very quickly, and H&R Block should probably benefit from that, I think.
Stephen, I love these online services, and a lot of people are great fans of them, but as you know, you get a lot of complaints from users. You have your feedback thing. I'd be interested in knowing, what are the biggest complaints? What would people like to see done better on these online services?
Well, it tends to be, you know, things jumping around to other services easily. The movement going from one access to another, it seems to be the key complaint that we get, if any. You know, making it easy to use is one thing, but really people like to jump instantly to the other services they use.
And it's the time lag, it's the 1 moment please ...
Exactly, exactly.
Let me ask you one of my complaints, the problem of different languages, different commands in different parts of the service. Why can't that be cleaned up so you can learn one set of commands and go anywhere?
Well, you know, that tends to be a function of how many different bits of information we have sitting out there on our service, and you know, we have to try to structure it so it standardizes some approaches. But
you know, some of the things you do are like database management, and some of it is like spreadsheets. Why don't you guys get together with the big hitters in those to make your interfaces more familiar? If you're doing database management, why not think about a connection with Ashton Tate? If you're doing spreadsheet stuff or financial stuff, why not look for the Lotus interface? Now, this thing where Lotus is teaming up with one of these services is certainly a good example of that. It's something that...
Well, you can bet we're exploring all those areas. Yeah, you know, there are some areas that we could improve on, and that's definitely
Well, you're talking to a couple of fellows that use it a lot, and we feel these things.
Right.
Steve, what about QuantumLink? What kind of feedback do you get from QuantumLink users? You have a kind of more graphic-friendly home approach to your online service.
Right, we just launched QuantumLink a year ago in November, and when we entered the market, we saw three problems for consumer users of online services. The first is they were too expensive. The second was they're just too difficult to use. And the third is they just weren't fun. And so what we've tried to do is develop a service specifically for Commodore users that's just very easy to use. The commands, as you mentioned, work the same across the entire system. Very inexpensive, and there's just a lot of things that are useful to a Commodore user, but they're also fun. We're not afraid to have fun.
Yeah, CompuServe, of course, is very well known. I guess the largest online service. A lot of our viewers are familiar with it. I'd like you to show us QuantumLink, though, which is specially designed for Commodore users, right, Steve?
Sure.
And show us the kinds of things you can get on QuantumLink.
What we're looking at right now is the QuantumLink main menu. As you see, there's 8 different departments on the service. To move around, all you do is use this cursor key, and it will flash around to the different departments. Down here are most of the information and transaction services. Commodore Information Network is where you can get help from Commodore, and Commodore Software Showcase is where there's over 4,000 free public domain programs.
Show us People Connection, for example.
Okay, you just pop up to that particular area, press F1, that's the select key to pull up that menu. We're loading a screen from the disk, so the graphics don't have to be transmitted over the phone line.
So the graphics are on the software here, they're not coming online, obviously.
So it gives you that friendly feel without you having to wait for the transmission time. People Connection is what we call a social center of the system. That's where people meet in rooms like a lobby, which you see here, and they can chat with each other, conduct conferences. We have special guests, rock stars, and computer programmers.
Is that like your CB simulator, I guess, the same thing?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And as going back to the issue of user interface, we've tried to build in just a one key to pull up the commands you would like to anytime you want to get to anywhere.
And that works the same no matter
across the entire system. So we've tried to take the concepts of interaction and just make it much simpler for the average user.
So you're online now in People, what do you call it?
People Connection, and we're in the lobby, and you can see there's 23 people now with us in the lobby. We can type a message like hi, it comes down at the bottom, and simply press return. It will be broadcast to everybody in that room. There are always dozens of different rooms, and you can create your own. We could create a room called Chronicles if we'd like, so it really allows you to personalize it.
But you people, you have chosen to be very specific to a piece of hardware, where CompuServe does have a tougher, you guys have got a tougher job because you're on a lot of different computers.
Let me ask you both a question about this. I've gone on the People Link type thing and the CB simulator. Does anybody ever say anything meaningful or useful in these things? You hear an awful lot of stray chit-chat.
Well, there's a couple different classes. We have scheduled conferences each night. In fact, we publish a program guide, much like a TV guide. And any particular night, there's 7 or 8 events with some real people, and you can ask questions. There is a lot of just very social banter. It really is an area for people to just meet friends and talk about whatever their interests are, some of which are real and some of which are...
We've heard about people meeting and falling in love and getting married
absolutely,
online. Right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I've heard stories that Quantum Link is going to go beyond Commodore sometime. Is that true?
We're looking at that. Right now we are focusing very heavily on the Commodore market, but we very much think this approach would work in other segments of the home as well.